Mesa, Arizona has Virgin Galactic. What are some of the key factors that are maybe both strategic and practical that lead Virgin Galactic to establish its Spaceship Factory right here in Mesa?
Absolutely. Well, three main things, and kind of in order of increasing importance. One is we need a runway. So we need a long enough runway where we can have our launch vehicle or our carrier ship attach the spaceship, just as we do when we do our astronaut flights. We need the runway long enough so we can fly it out to New Mexico.
Yes.
Second piece is we have four main locations. So start off with headquarters. Those are in Orange County, California. We design the spaceships there. In Mojave, we build our rocket motors. And then we fly in New Mexico. So right in between is Mesa.
Yeah.
So it just makes the perfect sense that you literally are separated by an hour for each location.
Truly.
By plane. And then finally, though, the most important thing is the people.
Yeah.
The people in Mesa, the skill set, the backgrounds, and the diversity in behaviors, problem solving, and just the general get it done attitude. We can do anything. So that to me is the most important thing. That's why we're Mesa.
Put your hands together, let's go. I need something to relate to. Come on. Tell me what that thing can be.
Hey y'all, welcome back to City Limitless, where we explore Mesa and beyond its city boundaries. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm so excited. Mesa is popping off over at Mesa Gateway, and I have Senior Vice President of Spaceline Technical Operations for Virgin Galactic, Markus Saarinen. Welcome. How's it going?
Fantastic.
Good. I'm
Thanks for
so
having me.
excited. Space and Mesa, like I would have never put those two together. Being born and raised here, I don't want to say Mesa was a sleepy town, but we didn't have these big names. I grew up with Boeing being here, and that was it. But Virgin Galactic now we have added to the list out at Mesa Gateway. I want to dive into that, but I want to get a little bit of your background first because it kind of started with a conversation with your last name. So tell me about yourself and your upbringing and how you've made yourself a Mesa resident now.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I was born in Finland, and Dad moved the family over here to the States, and then I went to middle school and high school in Indiana.
Okay.
Then I moved to upstate New York for college, back to Indiana. Then I've lived in Pittsburgh, but I've actually lived now in Arizona for 21 years.
Wow.
So first 7.5 of it in Tucson, and now 13.5 in Mesa. And so I could not be more thrilled to be here. I seriously, I love it, everything about Mesa, and just the fact that Mesa, especially the Mesa Gateway corridor, has grown so much in the last 5-some years, bring in, world-class companies. It's absolutely tremendous. I actually used to work at Phoenix Sky Harbor for an extended period of time, but now my latest company, Virgin Galactic, I've been with them for 3 years, and they're out at the Mesa Gateway Airport, and it's just tremendously exciting. We build spaceships.
Yeah. Build spaceships in Mesa.
That's right.
Well, let's get into this. So, Markus, with your impressive background, I did a little bit of stalking on LinkedIn, but who doesn't nowadays, right? Spanning over 2 decades in the aerospace leadership position, manufacturing, supply chain, operations. Can you start by painting the picture of the journey of what initially drew you to becoming into your role in the dynamic space of aerospace and space exploration? Say that 5 times.
Yeah, no, I've worked in aerospace now space for 3 years. So, over 20 years, but I started out doing a lot of stuff with components and piece parts. So anything from complex electronic boxes that go in aircraft that help the aircraft fly more efficiently, more safely, to cabin pressure valves, to electric power generators, and then jet engines and auxiliary power units. And probably one of the coolest things I ever worked on was a thrust actuation controller for a nuclear submarine, and it was the size of a freezer.
What?
So yeah, so that was amazing. So, but I did piece parts, and then when the opportunity came along, I think with COVID, I think everyone kind of started looking at, it's like, hey, do I really want to do something different? And so I got this tremendous opportunity. Just absolutely honored that someone from Virgin Galactic reached out to me, and really I've been there for 3 years, and I always wanted to work at an airframer. So an airframer is like a Boeing or a Lockheed or a Cessna. So they build and integrate the actual airframe, the actual aircraft. But now to do it spacecraft, that's way cooler.
Yeah.
So I lucked in.
add that to the resume at
Yeah,
minimum,
absolutely.
right? Space. So with that being said, Mesa, Arizona has Virgin Galactic. I would truly say that that is an unexpected hub.
Yeah.
We're not, I mean, maybe it is expected. I don't know. I'm not in that industry, but it's unexpected. So from your vantage point as a senior VP, what are some of the key factors that are maybe both strategic and practical that lead Virgin Galactic to establish its spaceship factory right here in Mesa?
Absolutely. Well, three main things, and kind of in order of increasing importance. One is we need a runway. So we need a long enough runway where we can have our launch vehicle or our carrier ship attach the spaceship, just as we do when we do our astronaut flights. But when the spaceship is done, we need the runway long enough so we can fly it out to New Mexico.
Yes.
Second piece is we have 4 main locations. So start off with headquarters. Those are in Orange County, California. We design the spaceships there. So our programs and our engineering and our senior leadership, most of them are there.
Yeah.
In Mojave, which is, northeast of Los Angeles in the Antelope Valley, we build our rocket motors. We actually have, per the Guinness Book of World Records, the most powerful hybrid rocket motor in the world. Exactly.
How does one just decide that that's something you need to be having a huge title for?
Well, I'll tell you more about that later. And then we fly in New Mexico. So that's been traditionally where Virgin Galactic, flies. So right in between is Mesa.
Yeah.
So it just makes the perfect sense that you literally are separated by an hour for each location.
Truly.
By plane. And then finally, though, the most important thing is the people.
Yeah.
The people in Mesa, the skill set, the backgrounds, and the diversity in behaviors, problem solving, and just the general get it done attitude. We can do anything. So that to me is the most important thing. That's why we're in Mesa.
I love to hear that. And that was a question, but I want to dive into it now because, I mean, yeah, it's Virgin Galactic, but people make the brand. They make what they're literally building.
That's right.
Can you expand a little bit about the workforce in Mesa, what you've experienced, the talent that you guys have brought in?
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, having been a native, so it's like you start out with Boeing here, right? So Boeing is located there actually about, 6 miles from where I live. I've been a Mesa resident for 13 and a half years. And so it used to be, it's Boeing. And then gradually you started seeing increasing, aerospace companies come in, including aerospace suppliers. And then you started seeing more of the bigger aerospace, the airframers, but then we're the first spacefarers, right? We build spaceships, and really the people that are interested in aviation, the people that, develop the skill and the training in aviation, they'll go off and they'll build business jets, or they'll build helicopters, or they'll work at the airlines. But when you think about it, not a lot of companies fly astronauts commercially to space.
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to work there.
Yeah.
And the good news is when we actually did our hiring, we had, usually for our open positions, we'd get, 2 or 3 candidates. We literally got dozens per open position.
Really?
Because people want to build spaceships. People want to do something that no one else has done before.
And they believe in that future vision that, back in the day, it was, space is the limit, but there's more that we can even explore outside of in the space world, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been with Virgin Galactic for 3 years, and I've physically witnessed 10 space flights.
Okay, hold on. Have you been on any of those space
No, I have
flights?
not yet.
But is there a potential for you?
I'm sure in the
My
future.
heart's like pounding for you. That sounds so scary.
That's right. Well, technically, anyone can, be a customer, stuff like that. But as we get more into our operations and we start doing more cadence, then, possibilities in the future are endless.
Endless, truly. Now, you mentioned something about like the overall process, kind of what each hub does.
Yep.
Can you go a little bit in more depth of like the SoCal location, the Mojave location, and then when we do finally launch in New Mexico, can you go a little bit more in depth on each of those sites and what they're, I don't know, maybe day to day or a little bit what that looks like?
Yeah, and I'll talk specifically as it pertains to the spaceship that we're building here in Mesa. So. Yeah, so in Orange County, we're located very close to the John Wayne Airport there, the Santa Ana Airport, and we design our spaceships there, right? So you have the engineers there that what they've taken is, we've built a spaceship and we've flown the spaceship and operated a spaceship already. And what this new Delta class spaceship is going to be able to do is do it more frequently and with newer technology and having done all the lessons learned that we've learned from the previous thing. So all those engineers in Orange County, they've done that. They've taken all the lessons learned and integrated, they've applied the latest techniques, and then they've worked with the people, my team included, on the manufacturing side on how we're going to build this. In Mojave, we build rocket motors. So we have the world's most powerful hybrid rocket motor. And the key there is our rocket motor, in case something were to go wrong, we can turn it off. So it's not one of those rockets that, once you get going, it's like it's unstoppable. And, if things go wrong, you can't do anything. Our motor, we can actually turn off. So there, we have manufacturing, we have design, we have lots of other things there to make sure that rocket motor is built right. In Mesa here, of course, we're building spaceships, which is tremendously exciting. And then the operating of the spaceship will occur in New Mexico. So once we are done building a spaceship here, we will do what's called ground vehicle testing here. Okay. And then after that, it's going to be picked up by the carrier ship or launch vehicle, flown to New Mexico. And that's where we operate our commercial astronaut operations as well as our research flight operations.
Now, silly question, is there a reason why you wouldn't drive it to New Mexico instead of flying it? I mean, probably quickness and whatnot, but I honestly was like, I'm going to keep my eyes out on the road for these spaceships, but apparently that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so it is, you are capable of transporting it via road. It is an oversized vehicle, right? So it's more cumbersome and it's actually more expensive. And
really?
Yeah, and bottom line is it's a really cool preview to what we're going to do, multiple times per week.
Yeah.
When we actually operate it. So it's going to carrier ship or the launch vehicle is going to affix the spaceship to it. And then that's how we operate, actually. So, our Delta ship, the big differentiators that we have is that, we're going to be able to operate versus once a month in our previous operations. We're going to be able to operate at least 2 times a week, like every third day. Right. So that's tremendous. And the folks that have designed the technology, they have managed to make it more durable and more lightweight. So our new Delta class ships, instead of fitting 4 passengers, we're going to fit 6.
Wow. And that is passengers and pilot?
No, that's just passengers. We've got 2 pilots up front. So right now in our current ship, we have 4 passengers, 4 astronauts, and we have 2 pilots. In the future, we're going to have 2 pilots and we're going to have 6 passengers. Wow. And we also have payloads for research purposes that we partner with companies when you do microgravity or zero gravity research.
Sure. Now tell me, when you fly in an airplane, you have a destination.
Yep.
You fly here from California. When you go into space, what is your destination? That might sound silly, but you're going up, you eventually have to come back down. What is the time traveled in space? Can you elaborate on any of that?
Yeah, so we provide a commercial astronaut experience, and obviously you have orbit where you have like International Space Station and stuff like that, orbiting the Earth, and then you have satellites in low Earth orbit. So we go to space, it's slightly below that, right? So we launch people, and it's just to go through the launch profile. Our carrier ship called Eve takes off with a spaceship underneath it. And we take it to about 45,000 feet, okay? And the reason this is very unique, and it's also extremely powerful in multiple ways, is the fact that unlike a rocket, which needs to power through the thick atmosphere, we have an air launch vehicle, right? So we launch from 45,000 feet roughly. So we release the spaceship, and then it does what we call a gamma turn. So it basically goes from horizontal to vertical, and that's when you power on the rocket motor, and the rocket motor blasts into space.
Oh my gosh.
And people, commercial astronauts that fly with us, they actually get to go faster than even basically almost all fighter pilots, because they get to go Mach 3 or 3 times the speed of sound. Wow. Which is tremendous. And then our key technology is that we have a feather system. Yes. And the feather system, it's kind of like, think about it like if you play badminton, kind of like the birdie. It's the same kind of system where roughly, it pivots at an angle of about 60 degrees. That allows the spaceship to go on its back. And what that does is that gives the astronauts the ideal view of Earth. They get to see the Earth, they get to see the curvature, they get to see everything. And it also puts the vehicle into the perfect position to come back down. So it provides stability and it controls the speed. things of that nature. And then after experiencing microgravity and being able to float, the astronauts are going to get back into their seats, and our spaceship comes back down. And then the feather, it locks into position again, so it looks like a spaceship, and then our pilots glide it back down.
Wow. Now, next kind of question, a little bit off the cuff. You're referring to your guests as astronauts.
That's right.
That's an interesting angle to not call them, passengers. Is there a reason why that's a verbiage that you guys are using versus not just like a passenger?
Yeah, they're astronauts. I mean, if you count right now the number of people that have been to space,
yes,
it's literally in the 3 digits.
Yes.
Right. So
yes.
it's a special experience.
Yeah.
So start with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Start with that. And, obviously they go into space.
Yeah.
Right. So they go into space, and so they become astronauts.
Is there any kind of formal training or like presentations or anything that they have to set through to prepare them for this experience?
Yes, they do training.
Okay.
They actually have training. They have a series of training that they go through with we actually have astronaut trainers on our staff. That actually have experience in that, from other industries. Sure. And then they also work with the pilots. They get with the pilots. They perform and our passengers in, for example, acrobatic planes as a part of the training. So they get used to the extreme sensations that they'll feel. And yeah, I mean, if you are in a car that accelerates very fast, even like, a fast,
yes, like the Tesla
or something like that, it's like, that's very fast, but imagine that, but much, much longer and even faster. Sure. And that's what you're going to experience.
Sure. Wow. And could you speak upon a little bit like how long that training process looks like prior to a launch?
Yeah, I think there's some flexibility there on the astronauts. They're gonna be there a few days to a week before, and it really depends on how much they want out of that experience.
Sure.
But we will start working with our astronauts many months in advance of their space flight.
Okay, yeah, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, how much PTO do I need? How much money do I need?
Sure.
Where do I have to go for all of this?
For sure. But yeah, our goal is when we provide that experience is, I mentioned it before, that the design and the maintainability of our spaceship is going to be completely different. Yes. So instead of flying once a month, we're going to be able to fly, roughly every third day, or at least 2 times per week. Mm-hmm. So that means that the cadence of everything has to be much more orchestrated.
Sure. Yeah. And is there an age limit on your astronauts?
No.
Wow.
We literally have flown, I think the gentleman was 80, and actually, put it this way, we have no age limit.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. If you can go through the training and you can do the launch and be prepared for it.
That's right.
So yep. Now I want to bring it back to you. You have so much knowledge of everything, but with your work background, I want to know like what kind of leadership you bring to the table here at the Mesa facility and what you're doing for your team. How do you keep them going and how do you keep yourself going? I mean, just talking to you, I can feel the passion and the excitement. So at minimum, you're dealing with space. So that's just freaking cool, right?
That's right.
But I want to know more about like your leadership style, what you bring to the table, how you get yourself going in the morning, and what you do for your team as well.
Yeah, I appreciate. I mean, bottom line is like I work for my team, right? I work for my team. That's what
great
matters
leadership
there.
skill at minimum.
Right. So I'd say there's 4 things. Number one is processes. Mm-hmm. So when you work in, something as regimented as, a space line, just like an airline, you have to have processes. You have to do things by standards. And so it starts with that. We have long established processes that we want to make sure that, people learn, people train in, and then of course people follow. The second piece is agility. Agility is basically, being able to work on small task and then move on to the next task and be very flexible in terms of what the actual situation requires. And it's also training for that. Yeah. So being able to cross-train so that instead of just having one specialty, we want a smaller, I kind of call it the special forces mentality. We want folks that work for us to have a lot of different skill sets. Mm-hmm. So if something happens, someone's out, someone needs to take a vacation, that doesn't hinder our operation. Sure. So that agility in our investment is we want to invest in our people. That allows them to, work on whatever they want to work on and get the skills, the training. Number 3 is innovation. Yes. We have to drive innovation, just like, as crazy as it sounds, it's like right now we have more computing power in our phone than we did in, the first rockets from 40 years ago, which is crazy.
Wild.
Right? So innovation. So that's the way that, our space flights are going to occur from once a month to a couple times a week, is we are driving innovations like that, we're using, better materials, lighter materials, more durable. We're able to maintain without any kind of sacrifices the spaceship.
Yep.
And
Integrity of it.
exactly, and to do it with perfect safety and quality, and we're able to operate more frequently. And then the final thing is fun.
Yeah.
Final thing is fun, and to actually make that a part of the process. So just like everything else, like the agility and innovation, make fun a part of the process.
Certainly.
Do frequent checks day in, day out, and just allow people to bring their own diverse, behaviors and skill sets and what they've learned and drive all of these processes.
Wow. Now, being based in Mesa, I feel like high schools have so many more opportunities for their kids nowadays. And I didn't graduate too long ago, but long enough where it makes a big difference. Do you guys work with any like local high schools or, even I know ASU's in that area. Do you guys work with any of the schools for like internships, or is Virgin Galactic maybe too new in the area to be bringing people on like that? And
No, we've started that process. And in fact, we do have an internship program.
Cool.
Because of the way right now, of course, we're starting to build and have started to build our Delta class spaceships. So a lot of our interns have been focused on the design side, but now definitely our interns and our, opportunities are going to be focused more on the build side.
Sure.
And we have, had a lot of discussions already with, the state of Arizona and various other local folks, specifically from the schools, and also partnering with the other companies that are around the Mesa Gateway Airport on where they draw their talent, because ultimately everyone wins when you have this open source mentality for, bringing in talent. And let's face it, I mean, I'm a little biased because I think building spaceships is cool, but we want to keep that going for, future spaceships.
I feel like I need to know, what kind of coffee mug do you drink out of? Like, I'm just envisioning like a spaceship.
I should do something like that.
I just think that'd be so epic to start your day with, a coffee mug and a spaceship, right?
Yeah. I need to switch to coffee. Unfortunately, I'm with the Ghost energy drinks or other energy drinks right now.
Don't say that stuff out loud.
Sorry.
I'm just giving you a hard time. But so with this new generation spaceship, it's built, leaves Mesa. What's the immediate journey? I know you said it's like flown to New Mexico, but is that a process within itself? Like how you guys have to set those flights up, and then like, is that like special situations in the air? Like, can you tell us about that journey a little bit?
Yeah. So after the vehicle ground testing that we're going to do here in our facility.
Maybe pump you back really quick. What do you mean by the vehicle ground testing? Can you walk our viewers, listeners through something like that as well?
Yeah, a lot of it's just ensuring that the vehicle as a whole functions. So anything from powering on the systems and making sure that everything works to vibrating it, shaking it, right?
Yeah.
Shaking all the surfaces, shaking the entire thing, shaking the wings, putting the right amount of stress on it that it would see during a flight, and using all the flight control surfaces like you would in an aircraft. So it's very much analogous to what you'd see in a completed airplane, but we're doing it to the spaceship.
Sure. Okay.
And then once that's completed, the transport on our carrier vehicle or carrier ship or launch vehicle to New Mexico, it's transportation certainly. And from there, it goes into the test flight program. So once it gets into New Mexico, the test flights, first you start with glide flights. So you literally take it up there and you release it, right? And so it just performs a glide and it lands. And there you go into actual operations with just the pilots. Our pilots are the best of the best. They're literally, astronauts that have, experience beyond Virgin Galactic, or they're the best of the best military test pilots. So we want to make sure that they are comfortable with everything. And so they'll get to do the rocket motor launch and everything like that. And then once that's completed, we're going to be ready for commercial operations to actually fly people and research loads into space.
My mind is like blown. I'm like, I can ask any other question in the book and every question in the book, but I'm just like we're going to space. Civilians are going to space. That is just so epic. But looking ahead with your expertise in supply chain analytics, how does the Mesa facility strategically fit into Virgin Galactic's broader vision and scaling operations?
Yeah. So our factory here, we are ramping up, and we're going to be capable of building, per our business needs, up to 6 spaceships a year.
Wow.
Yeah, we have other things that we're doing there to support anything from spares. And what we do at the Spaceship Factory is we assemble things. We assemble the spaceship. Spaceship is it's mainly, let's call it three main components for the frame and then, the rocket motor. So it's the fuselage, it's the wing, and it's the feather system. So the parts for the spaceship are being built by our partners in Texas and in Canada. And then, we build the rocket motor up in Mojave. And then we assemble and we integrate it into a working spaceship in Mesa. So we have avionics, so all the electronics, and we have all the other things that are actually required to make the spaceship operate.
Sure.
But the longer term strategic vision is really the fact that you have a lot of other companies in the region. I mentioned before the sub-tier suppliers.
Yes.
So when you have major companies come into a region, then the supply base starts developing, and that starts this kind of self-fulfilling, I kind of want to say snowball, but that's not really appropriate for Arizona, but
Sandball.
Yeah, some kind of a thing that generates momentum and keeps going.
Dust devil,
yeah. And then it kind of perpetuates into something that's more powerful because then they'll have ideas.
Yeah.
They'll have ideas on like, hey, you're doing this right now, but how about we do something different? Or have you ever thought about doing this differently? And that's what drives the cycles of innovation in the design and the manufacturing. So that's kind of how we fit into the area. And we've already had lots of conversations with our neighbors there.
I was literally about to say, I'm like, what do your neighbors think of you guys? Like, that's got to be a conversation.
It is a conversation. It's pretty cool. And, obviously we can't show them a lot yet.
Yes.
We'll be able to in the near future.
Sure.
But, it's really cool. They're obviously very curious. And, again, we have tremendous respect. And in fact, some of our employees are from there, right? Some of our employees are from our neighbors, right?
Oh, oops.
Because you had, they came on there.
They did it willingly.
They qualified. They did it willingly. But yeah, so it kind of perpetuates that thing. And then you start getting to idea sharing, and then you share ideas to say, hey, how do you train a person to do this in the best possible way? And then what are the new skill sets that we need when we're doing something new?
Yeah.
Because I mentioned a lot of the things that, we are doing in the spaceship that allow us to operate it more frequently. Is the fact that, these are technologies that are tried and true, but we're actually applying them for the first time.
Right.
So that's really cool.
Well, I have to ask now, because we're all in this AI world, are you guys using any kind of AI to help build, leverage, create anything? Any kind of AI tools are you guys using?
So we are...
And I know you probably can't reveal all the secret sauce, but even a little bit, peek under the curtain.
Yeah. So we're looking at opportunities where instead of doing data gathering and data collation, we can have certain, AIs or, kind of like a few years ago, you would call them like, building macros or things like that.
Sure.
Do things like that. But the number one thing is it's still an untested, unproven technology. So it all has to be checked by humans.
100%.
Right. But I think if you do it right, then you create the right checksums and the right visibility. So yeah, I have folks on my team looking at that,
Very cool.
especially when it comes to data gathering and then data collation so that they can actually focus on the analytics and the analysis versus doing some of that manual work. But again, we have to tread cautiously there.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. I just know AI is like huge conversation in my world and a lot of other worlds. And I'm like, it has to be in space exploration too. With that, why or will Arizona, Mesa ever be a flight ground for the spaceship at all, like a finished product?
Yeah, I think anything's always possible, but the reason we operate where we operate it out of is we actually we operate an experimental airworthiness certificate on our vehicle.
Gotcha.
And what that means is, unlike a Southwest Boeing 737 or something like that, we have a little bit more latitude, but we still are bound by the guides of the FAA.
Okay, I was going to ask that too. I was like, okay, so what are the guidelines?
Yeah. So you have envelopes or you have like dimensions within you which you can operate, right? And so the whole idea is that because we are flying to space, I mean, instead of going over something, we're going straight up. So that narrows the window a little bit. But in New Mexico, we're able to operate close to, where the military operates. And we have this agreement with them that we can operate in that space. And then put it this way, as commercial spaceflight becomes more common, I'm sure that in the technology develops, that will open us up to new areas.
I'm just waiting for like you just go to Mesa Gateway and you're like, yeah, one ticket to space today. You know what I mean?
That'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
So with that being said, with the aerospace industry in Arizona, experiencing like significant growth, specifically kicking off in Mesa. Virgin Galactic at the forefront of space tourism. Like truly, it's a touristic attraction now. How do you see the work being done here in Mesa contributing to the broader economic and technological landscape of the region in the coming years?
Yeah, so again, kind of, going back to that first point of why are we in Mesa, the most important thing is the people. The people, you're a native, but not a lot of people here are natives, right?
I call myself a unicorn.
Right, exactly. You are the unicorn. So a lot of people come here and you wouldn't believe the types of, I call it density of experience.
Sure.
So in other words, you wouldn't believe the density of experience that they have had and the places they've operated in and again, the lessons they've learned and the behaviors they've cultivated over the years and the training they've had. Again, when you put those people in a place, it has this magic effect of kind of like it starts permeating.
Yeah.
And then people get really excited. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, like you mentioned before, of doing the local partnerships.
Sure.
Of saying it's like, hey, we're having people, but instead of, doing studies for cars or car maintenance, how about more aircraft maintenance? Oh, no, how about spacecraft maintenance?
Yes.
How about more stuff on, doing other things with space? So that's the first thing. And the other thing is it's pretty freaking cool, right?
I love it.
So, just to be able to let people know of like, what would it take for them to follow a certain path to wind up at Virgin Galactic? And again, not all of us at Virgin Galactic, I'm an engineer by training, but I've done very little engineering in my career. Very, very little.
Yeah.
Most of it has been in operations. I call them the supply chain adventures and solving day-to-day problems in order to, actually build something or redesign something, rework something, repair something. So that to me is tremendously valuable.
Yeah.
So the diversity in thought and experiences in the previous adventures that people bring, that's tremendously valuable.
Sure.
And again, like I said, you can kind of see it in just the Mesa Gateway Airport and what's happened to that area over the last 5 years. It's just been incredible.
It's booming. Well, I'm excited to have Virgin Galactic here. I'm going to throw you a question that I did not have you prepare for.
Okay, good.
I want to know, do you believe in aliens or not?
Do I believe in aliens?
Yes.
Okay. Well, instead of that, I could say one of my favorite bands is Jimmy Eat World, who is from Mesa. That's right. No, that would be a complete diversion, and I won't do that. Okay, so I'll just say this. I mean, obviously, the universe is vast.
Sure.
And, that's it, right?
I love it. I just had to ask because I think, growing up, we're going to have flying cars. Well, we don't have flying cars, but we have Teslas. We're going to have flying cars, but we're going to space. What is the next thing that we're going to maybe experience? And who knows? It could be aliens. I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, Markus, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so excited to watch you guys boom, see everything else take off, see Gateway grow at Virgin Galactic grow at Gateway, and it's just been a pleasure of having you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I'm honored to be here. Thanks.
All right, guys, that is a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, wherever else you get your podcasts. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
I need somewhere to escape to. Mesa, that's where I feel free. I'm on the way.